You may have heard the term sync licensing and that you can make money from it with royalties, but you're a beginner and you don't know where to start. Don't worry, I was at that point too. I didn't know how to get started with sync licensing. This video is for you. It's a great day to be alive. Now this video is going to be a reference guide so you can keep coming back to about starting in the sync licensing game. I understand you want to start making money with your music right away, but if you don't understand the back end, the business side, no matter how good your music is, you're not gonna be paid for it. In fact, when I first started sync licensing, trying to get into it, I lost a lot of money submitting to libraries, different publishers to try to get my music placed. And at the end, I didn't get anything from it. Now, that's not to say that paying for different music companies won't work, because some people get placements and some don't. But I want to try to help you understand the back end before you start, so you understand your options, so you don't have to pay and lose out on money with music licensing. What is sync licensing? Sync is short for synchronization licensing. And all that really means is whenever you see a video synced up with music, that's synchronization licensing. So when you think about TV, films, video games, commercials, most of the time you hear music. So your music gets synced with whatever visual is going on the screen. That music has to come from somewhere, whether it be music makers, producers, beat makers, or artists. You have to get it somewhere. And that's where you come along and music production libraries come into play. What typically happens is the show music supervisor will have a creative brief, and that's defined by all the other players on the show of how they want the show to sound sonically. That brief would get sent to music publishing libraries and then gets into us, musicians and artists, to fill those specific needs. So take, for example, if the brief says, if it's a CSI murder investigation, they want some dark tension, ambient noises, well then people like me and you producing music will make stuff with ambient noises. That music will then get sent to the music library, then the music library will send it to the music supervisors of the show, and then they will pick which ones they like, which fit the mood. Now, just because your music is in a music library, that doesn't mean it's gonna be accepted for a show. The main reason you're probably wondering about sync licensing is because people have money tied to it and the elusive passive income. Now, it can be passive. You still have to make the music up front. So there is some work, but the back end royalties are passive. Let me give you an example of the opportunities you can get. You probably heard the show Friends. That was on air for 10 seasons. Now, the band who made it, they didn't have that many hits, but the one theme song, I'll Be There For You, is going on the syndications all over the world. So that band is still making music, still making money on that one song. And that's how sync licensing works. Not everybody is going to get a major theme song like the Friends song. You can expect some decent money. Some people can make a full-time living with it. Some people can't. Like me, I actually have another job that I have to help supplement the income, which is fine. I've always liked working a job and having other income. Right now, the music income is not enough for full time, but that's okay. It's still something I get checks every quarter, every month, depending on what kinds of royalties coming in. So the key players to getting you these royalties are music supervisors and music library companies. A music supervisor is simply the person, the liaison on a project that connects the visual with the music. So the director or other creative people would say, we have this certain type of mood, find us the perfect song for this mood. And that's where the music supervisors come into place. And they have a wide knowledge usually about what type of songs there are. Now let's say they want to use a Beyonce song in their video or TV show. Now the record labels who owns the masters and the publishing rights, and also the artists themselves who own some of the publishing, might say, we want $200K for this song. Well, the show might not have a budget of $200K. So they reach out to music production libraries and people like us to produce something on a smaller scale that gives the same similar emotions. So if it's a big scene on a major network like NBC, ABC, then you may could get, let's say, $1,000 just to get the song licensed plus your back end royalties. So that brings me to the topic of music production libraries. This is where I get the majority of my sync income from, and this is probably the best start for you to start as a beginner, because getting connected with the music supervisors is hard to do. You really have to know a lot of people to be really upfront to know what's going on behind the scenes. So music production companies make it easier for us to submit our music to their library and then be placed. So they act as a secondary middleman between the music supervisors and the production and the music production companies and the artists. If you watch a lot of YouTube, you've probably seen a commercial or your favorite YouTuber with an ad sponsorship from Epidemic Sound. Now, Epidemic Sound is a music production library. They have artists submit their music and become part of their catalog, so that way creators like us or other corporations can license the music for a monthly fee, and in exchange, we get the royalties. The thing about Epidemic Sound is they pay an upfront fee to get use of your music, and they also give you a 50-50 split on the publisher end of your royalties. They make it easy to submit your music with a simple form, but even though it's simple, there's still some cons I gotta let you know about this type of music production company. The first con is they own your masters. Now, this is different from other music production libraries. When you submit to other production libraries, depending on what the contract agreement is, you do not give over rights to your masters. Now, for all the companies I belong to, none of them own my masters. Now, in the contracts, it says that I have to keep my music in there 2 to 3 years, but after that, then I can negotiate if I want my songs in the catalog or not. They do not own my music. So let's say after 3 years, I'm like, the song's not working with this company. I can take that song and put it somewhere else because I own the masters. But with a company like Epidemic Sound, they own the masters. So in exchange, they pay you an upfront fee. So that's different how with the companies I work with, they give me back-end royalties. So they don't give me no upfront money, but I get back-end royalties. Now, depending on which libraries you go, you may can negotiate upfront fees, but with Epidemic Sound, they own your masters, and it says it right in the FAQ. So if you want to take your music somewhere, guess what? You're probably not going to be able to do it. Now, you probably can over a few years, but in the period of term that you sign the contract, they will own your masters. Now, they will give you a 50-50 split on your publishing side. Now, there's two different type of copyrights. You have your masters and you have your publishing. But I go in depth in that in another video if you want to know about master rights and your other composition rights. But they do give you 50-50 split on your royalties. Another con of joining a music production library like Epidemic Sound is they say you can't be a part of a PRO. Now, a PRO or pro stands for Performance Rights Organizations. Now, in the US, you have 3 big ones: ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. Now, I'm a part of ASCAP. They all basically do the same things. They collect royalties. So I suspect what Epidemic Sound is doing. I don't know. If you're a part of Epidemic Sound, let me know how you actually track where your music is played. But I suspect they don't want you to be in a PRO to help them move faster with the negotiation phase and getting your music out to so many people. The thing about working with music publishing companies is they do all the back end work. So they upload your songs to register to your PRO. They make sure all the metadata with the files are intact so they know who's the artist, songwriter, copyright holders. So when you're checking out music production libraries to be a part of, you have to understand some of them are exclusive and some of them are non-exclusive. Exclusive libraries mean you can only use that piece of music in that library for whatever time period they decide. Sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 2 years. It just depends. You have to read the contract. Now, they will still probably have the same split, a 50-50 royalty split, but you can only use that piece of music in their library. Now, if we take non-exclusive libraries, you can submit a piece of music to them, and what they usually do is retitle your music so that way you can use that music somewhere else. Now, I'm a part of both. I have some songs in exclusive catalogs and some songs in non-exclusive catalogs. And I do this because I just love making music. And I always say, I have the mindset where I can just keep making music. So it just depends on which one is best for you. If you like being tied down, go to an exclusive. If you don't like being tied down, find non-exclusive library. But you have to make sure you read the terms, because you don't want to get in trouble if you submit music to an exclusive library and then you're submitting to multiple libraries. Now that you understand a little bit more about the key players and what a PRO is so you can get your money, you're probably wondering, hey, tell me where I can submit my music. Don't worry, don't rush into this part, because I made this mistake. Now, there's some libraries that you can be a part of and pay a fee. One of the biggest that thinking off the top of my head is Taxi. Now, I used to pay for their services to get placements, but there's so many things you have to keep doing. And once you're a part of it, you still have to pay to even do each opportunity that they give you, or each different brief. So they do the same thing. They have an aggregate of briefs from all different kind of companies, all different type of genres, and you find which ones you like and you want to submit to that one. Say you want to do, it's calling for 90s boom bap hip hop. You submit to that, but you still have to pay a fee on top of the fee you pay to get into the service. So make sure you're paying attention to what you're paying for. Now, I'm not to say that these libraries aren't good, because people do get placements, but there are other music libraries where you can just submit your music for free. They either tell you yes or no, and then you're part of their catalog, and then you'll get money on the back end royalties if your song gets placed. If you go to the link in the description, I have a cheat sheet made for you that gives you a little bit more information so you can reference this stuff that I talked about, so you don't have to keep coming back to the video. I also will give you some music libraries you can submit your music to. But hold on, just because it's easy to submit your music, it may sound good, but it doesn't mean your music is actually ready to be licensed. Yes, there's a certain format and certain way that gives you higher odds to getting your music placed. But be on the lookout, because I'm gonna make another video about that topic. But in the meantime, if you want to keep learning about sync licensing, watch these videos about how I got my music into TV.